it was 2007. I bought the house. It is what it is. And the whole show is about just the disaster of that, my fucking entire tragic life, And it's a lot of tragedy in the pitch. Because it's not tragic where it's like, I was born with cancer, and I can already anticipate people being like, you were a white man and you had a house, and it wasn't tragic, it was your privilege. And it's like, no, you're right. To an extent, you're right. All these people that are like, oh, they're victims in the mortgage crisis. It's like, they're victims. Somebody handed them $100,000 they never should have had out of their house. Somebody gave them, they cashed out of some fucking house inherited or never should have owned, gave them $100,000. It's like, yeah, and then they couldn't pay it back and their credit went to shit. And I'm not saying that does suck, and if you have kids involved, whatever sucks. But when you look at historically the word victim, what's been done to people, people, the Catholic Inquisition were put on a rack. You know what I mean? And people were tortured. You talk about victims, and it's like this time in history, like a victim meant someone loaned you too much money. You know what I mean? Like this is one of the only times in history a victim meant a bank gave you too much money that you shouldn't have had.
Right.
That's a victim.
You get to have a little fun as the victim.
Yeah, you're a victim because you didn't know that on the dishwasher's salary, you shouldn't be buying a $750,000 house because no one had explained to you the basic laws of logic and math. Everyone's like, it was trickery. All these people were duped. And it's like, yeah, was there predatory lending? Was there bad shit going on? Sure. But there was a lot of people and a lot of people don't understand about the mortgage crisis. It wasn't just subprime. Subprime meant that you had terrible credit, okay? And you got, a loan you were able to state your income. You didn't have to prove any of your income. So you could just say, yeah, I do this and I make this. And you go, okay. And you didn't have good credit and you got this adjustable loan, meaning that you got a low rate for 2 or 3 years and then it would adjust. And then when the adjustment came, you would just refinance again into another loan. Now, the problem was your house kept going up in value. So every time you'd refinance, you had the equity to refinance. You had the equity to take another mortgage out. Then when the mortgage crash happened, the houses stopped going up. So there was no more equity. You couldn't keep tapping your house and using it like an ATM. So then you had a bunch of people in adjustable rate mortgages, which I took out myself. I had an adjustable rate. And my rate never adjusted. My house started foreclosing before that. I didn't even get to the point where it fucking ballooned. I didn't even get to the balloon payment. I was done before that, But if those rates had been fixed rates, a lot of people would be able to keep their house. But a lot of it wasn't subprime. A lot of it was like something called Alt-A. People don't know what Alt-A means. Alt-A means your credit's good, and we're going to lend you money. And a lot of the Alt-A loans were people that wanted to buy investment properties or they wanted to buy second homes. They wanted to be Donald Trump, which, is Donald Trump Donald Trump? Is a great question. But they wanted to be a real estate mogul. They wanted to buy a house and let the house rent out the house and it would pay for itself. Because mortgage rates were so low, your mortgage was so low that if you bought renters in, it would essentially pay your mortgage. So now you have an asset that you've bought, no money out of, or very little money out of pocket. People come in and just pay your mortgage. And so everybody was like, oh, I'm going to be a real estate, we're going to own. And dirtbags. Dirtbags would walk into this office and be like, I own 3 houses, 1 for each of my kids. And they would act like they were fucking Warren Buffett and they'd figured something out. It was like, you didn't figure anything out. You figured out that you could take sham loans and buy a bunch of properties, and that's what it is. But this whole idea that it's just people that got, and I bought a fucking house. I'm telling you, the idea there was just a bunch of people who got duped and who had no idea could not be further from the truth. We live in a country of dishonest scoundrels, okay? These are scoundrels who live in this country that will steal if they can get away with it. And that's my favorite thing about the people in this country. And it's the most American thing about them is they don't like the government and they'll fuck over and they'll cheat on their taxes and they'll pay cash for shit and they'll every now and then help their buddies out. And I love all. I don't have a problem with any of that. But the idea, then you're going to turn this crew into a bunch of choir boys that were completely bamboozled by these. Do you know how many calls people would call me and they're like, "What? Hey, what can we do here? Can we feel, my brother will say that I work at his Chevy dealership." They were pitching me fraud ideas. I'm like, we really can't get away with that stuff anymore. They're like, "What if I put my mother on the loan? She's about 4 months from death, but we can get her to sign." I mean, I remember doing a loan for a guy. Oh God, I'm never getting on TV telling these fucking stories. I did a loan. Every time it sounds like I'm lighting a cigarette, I'm eating a pear. I did a loan for a guy in Brooklyn, in Sunnyside, Brooklyn, and the guy came to me. He goes, "Listen," he goes, "here's the deal." He goes, "Listen, I want to open up a strip club in Miami." I said, "Great." He goes, "I've never worked and I have no money." I said, "Hey, what am I, God? I don't, you want to open up?" He goes, "I think I'd be great in the business. I go down to Miami. I like strip club business. My friends, I need money out of my father's house." My father is an older man who may or may not have dementia. This is the words that he used to me. He swear to God. He goes, he may or may not, he goes, he made a gesture with his hand. He said, "My father's a little, and I'm like, hey. But he goes, the reality is, my father, he goes, I'll never be able to buy this house for my father. I have no credit. I have nothing. So he goes, we need to refinance. I need to take some cash out of the house." Okay? And so, we did the loan for the guy. It's completely legal. It's above board. He's like, "I want to take this money." And it is what it is. He's like, "We're going to pay the mortgage. I'm going to go down and open a strip club in Miami." I mean, listen. What am I, hey, I'm not lending my money. It's a bank said They want to get involved. Now, we didn't write in the application, this guy, Epifanio, wants to go down to Miami and do the strip club. We just said they're going to take money out of the house. I don't know why, for home improvement. No one cared, Now, during the closing, it was a little uncomfortable. I had never met the father, okay? This guy sent in all the documents. I had never met the father. We get there. The father is essentially dead. We get to the closing. We show up to the closing, okay? The closing attorney's there, and the closing attorney's like, "Have you met the borrower?" I'm like, "No, I spoke to the son." She goes, I'm kind of uncomfortable with this because the guy, he goes, he seems like ill." I'm like, "What do you mean he seems ill?" She goes, "He just doesn't seem like he's, So I go in there, and the father is sitting at the table. The father clearly has no idea where he is. He's very, very old, and he's out of it, right? So Epifanio's sitting there, and he's like screaming in his father's face. He goes, "Dad, the men from the bank are here." Father is expressionless, sitting at the table, right? I go, "Hello, sir. How are you? I'm blank blank from the bank." And again, expressionless, doesn't look at me. Total weekend at Bernie's. So I'm like, they got to get, we're here. So they take out these papers. The son is like helping the father sign his name. And the closing attorney's like, I don't know. And I'm like, the man is an elderly man. His son is, he's helping out. What are we? The judge and jury? You fucking, And in the middle of the thing, like the father would kind of have the father would be like, what is happening? And then his son would look at him and go, "Daddy, keep signing. It's almost over. It's almost over, Daddy." Wow. So looking back at that, who's the victim? The dude's about to die. The guy's dead. The father is literally dead. I'm trying to find the victim. Now, this is when I get in these conversations. People look at me like I'm a lunatic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People look at me like I'm wrong, but let's and don't hit me with the victim is the taxpayers. If you message me that, I'll block you. If you message me the victim is the taxpayers of the pay, I will block you, you dumb fuck. This old guy's dead. He doesn't know what's even happening. He's not leaving the house. He's gone. He's going to wherever.
Right.
This is the only chance the son has to suck any money out of this fucking house.
Yeah.
The son, so we're going to try to find the victim here. The son is sent in all the documents. They got approved. The son had a job. You know,